My name is Josh. I am the director of Cokesbury Students and have had that privilege for 7.5 years now. And hey, I am more thankful about it than anyone else could be. Love having a job, love being here. And so when I get opportunities like this, man, I feel like I got to talk about my friends. So I brought some pictures, and I want to show you the folks I get to hang out with all the time. So first one, this is from our Cokesbury Students Beach Retreat 2024. That is where we take as many high schoolers that are willing to go to Myrtle Beach with us for like 4 days. So it's a Sunday to Thursday, and that is like an event that I look forward to more than family vacation. No offense to my family. This is also my family. There's a lot more teenagers in this one. And it's great. It's just a time to get away, to do something that we don't get to do at home. And man, that event just delivers year after year after year. And so registration is open now for 2025 if you want to go. If you want to go, like we're doing it now. Also, second picture, this is our 7th, 8th, and 9th grade in the blue hoodies. We go to Resurrection, that's in Pigeon Forge. I don't know if you grew up United Methodist in East Tennessee, but if you did, probably heard of Resurrection. I started going there when I was in 6th grade. And look at me now, still showing up. So it's wonderful. It's lovely. It is a tradition that I look forward to every year. And then finally, this next picture is from our 56 retreat. This year, we took this group right here to the Wilderness Resort in Sevierville. And just had a wonderful 22 hours. That event is unlike anything else we do. That is a 22-hour sprint from the time they get dropped off to the time they get picked up. And if you think that you can't worship and water slide at the same time, yes, you can. So these are my friends. I want to brag on them, show you their pictures, and just talk about how proud I am. I think I used the serious photo in everyone, but I am that dude that's just like, all right, everybody do a fun one. Immediately following that. So a little bit more about Cokesbury Students. Our core values are compassion, curiosity, and courage. And we think those three things can really set young people up for a bright future. As a leader, as a parent, I think that we either typically lead or parent from this place of we do it because that's how it was done for us, or we do it because nobody did that for us or to us or with us. And so I think that compassion, curiosity, and courage are critical to young people. And so if we can talk about the compassion that Jesus displays throughout the Gospels and then share that with young people so that they become more compassionate to themselves, to their friends, to their world, I think that's a great thing. If we talk about curiosity and encourage curiosity among our world, ourselves, our friends, our neighbors, and these are students that are not afraid to ask questions when they leave our building, I think that's a great thing. And then finally, that courage piece, that is one of those things where I was a young man, people would pat me on the back, great, you were so brave. And the reality was I was just too stupid to know any better. I just did that because that's just what, I don't know, man. I'm 16. My brain's not fully developed yet. But if we can talk about courage in this positive way and show what it is and show how it's done and show how Jesus did that and how people throughout the Bible did that and how that can lead to a more fulfilling life and full of self-confidence and a braver, stronger world. And if you can be courageous to go and do things because you believe in them, man, I think we can produce some really life-changing young people when they leave these doors. So that's who we are. That's about us a little bit. And just so proud to be part of it and to be part of these stories. It's not all fun and games, though. I do have to share some news. I was recently scratching my head like a normal person. You know, something like that. But I did that in front of a student. And that student goes, your hair without a hat on. And I quote, "Hey." So I'm just living with that now. Maybe because I'm 39 and I turned 40 this summer that just hits a little different. I don't know. That number feels big to me. 30, whatever, dude. I was still super cool at 30, and I just breezed through that. But 40, I'm a dad now, and I don't know, sometimes my elbow goes numb because I sleep on it wrong. It's just different. I don't know. Stuff pops when I just bend over. It's weird. But being 40 and in student ministry, I never thought I would get here because I answered the call to ministry when I was 17. Got my first full-time job when I was 22. And I was just I'm never going to turn 40 because that's forever away. And I did not know how time worked. Again, 22, brain not full, still working some stuff out upstairs. But here we are. And I think the biggest struggle is keeping up with the language of the culture of the day, just knowing what their gibberish words mean at all times, and even being willing to look them up on the internet. And the other day, I was with a group of students, and I was just hey, what does this mean again? Just like a normal old person would do. And they were very kind to me, and then they would tell me what it means. And so they would be have you heard of this word? And I'd be like, no. And they'd tell me. And they said, have you heard of this word? And I went to Google it, and this kid puts his hand over my phone and goes, maybe don't do that one on the church's Wi-Fi. He was right. That is compassion in action. We are making it happen here. But look, the young people are just doing to the adults like myself, like what we did to the adults before us. It's just a generational cycle that the language is always evolving. The first time I had a semi-serious girlfriend, my mom was just now, are you courting this young lady? I was like, what? How old are you, dude? 40? And so that's just, I was like, we're going out. Oh my gosh. She's like, where? You are 15 and don't have a car. You are. And now I get to do that. It'd just be what does that gibberish word mean? And then they tell me, and I'm just that's not what that means. So I mentioned I'm a dad. My kids are, I have a daughter who's 8. I have a son that's 3. And man, they're just teaching me a lot just about life. For example, the 8-year-old teaches me that no secret is safe in the French family home. It is just our business, these streets, constantly. Recently, my wife and I went to an event at her school. It was a drop-in event that began at 1:15. We arrived at 1:17, which I contend is a perfectly reasonable time to arrive at a drop-in event. We were greeted by her second grade teacher who said, oh, we weren't sure if you'd be joining us today. My wife and I were just kind of all right, okay. She's like, well, Maddie said that you, and pointed to my wife, were probably at work and couldn't be here today. And then Maddie said that you, and pointed at me, were probably playing a video game or taking a nap or watching soccer or eating cereal. And frankly, I'm not sure which one's more offensive. I think it's the cereal one, but I'm not sure. And secondly, it was a Friday, and that's my day off. And if I got to do those 4 things on my day off, what a full day off that is. Eat cereal, maybe twice. I don't know, there's no rules on a Friday. I can take a nap, I can get sad watching Manchester United, and I can play video games. What a day. But she thought for some reason I would just be elbows out, bowl, in a bucket full of cereal, Cheerios, that can't come to support my daughter at school. And my son is 3, and he's just a different parenting experience altogether. And he is what one of my grandfathers would have called a real pistol. A lot of energy, just wildly different. He is a mama's boy at heart. And I'm okay with that because I know that one day it's going to be my turn. We're going to play ball in the driveway, baseball. We're going to do all the sports. We're going to do all the things. And then beyond that, I'm going to have to be his dad and not his friend. And I'm going to teach him to drive and teach him everything I know about women, which will be a super short conversation. But look, I know my time is coming, but right now I'm just kind of waiting for these moments. So I was in charge of him on a Saturday. My wife was, I don't know. And so he had woken up from a nap, and I too had recently done that. Or I was playing video games, I'm not sure. And so I went in his room, and he just looked sad. He had gotten out of bed, and he just looked sad. And he was like, Daddy? And I thought, oh, I know that tone. You need help. Here I am. And from all the parenting books I've read, the thing I saw on the internet, from the Instagram reel I watched that one time, get off of me. All right, it was a 6-second video, I learned a lot. I get down on his level. Oh, buddy, hey. And now we're making eye contact. I'm eye to eye with a 3-year-old. My palms are open, my arms are wide, ready to receive this young man. He goes, Daddy. I said, what's up, buddy? How can I help? What do you need? You can have the world, son. You name it. The no price is too high. He's like, Daddy. I said, what is it? My man, here we are. We're going to connect. We're going to be boys. We're going to be partners. We're going to be dudes. We're going to be men. This is the moment I've been waiting for. And he, with his head down and tears filling his eyes and his lovey in between, he goes, where is mommy? I don't know, man. Probably working, being the financial backbone of this home. Do you want to eat a bowl of cereal or something? Saturday, it's a great day to do that. And we did, because Fun Dad, which is currently a competition I'm winning that my wife does not know she is a participant in. If she ever catches on to me, I'm done for. But that's kind of who I am, what's going on. And man, 40 though, that feels like a big number. And I'm just learning stuff all the time. Trying my best, and 40, maybe it's because I just think of that, 39, that number I don't think is insignificant to what's going on today. We've got a story in the book of John, and John is a wonderful gospel. I think John is unlike any of the other 3 gospels in that John is the disciple whom Jesus loved. And you can really tell that John and Jesus were partners, that they were boys, they were friends, they had it together, that John was writing, and he concludes his gospel by saying this, that he wrote all these things so that you may believe. Every story that John tells, every letter John uses, every sentence he puts together is so that you may know that Jesus is who he says he is, that Jesus is the Son of God, that he is the Messiah, that he is the Savior, that he is the way, the truth, and the life. Everything that John does is so that you may come to believe. And so when we get to this story in John 5, we meet a man who had been ill for 38 years. This is John 5, chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city near the sheep gate was the pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. And one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, would you like to get well? I can't, sir, the sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me. And Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. And instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. I don't know how you read scripture, but I read it with kind of like this visual thing in mind. I have to kind of put the pieces together. And if there's a paralyzed man who's been there for 38 years, I imagine Jesus didn't just stand over him. But because Jesus, from what we know about it, he met people where they were, geographically, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And I just picture Jesus, like down on one knee, like he had seen an Instagram reel that was very important with connecting to people on an eye level. And he offered his hand, said, would you like to get well? In this big question series, that's today's question. Some translations say, would you like to be healed? Some questions say, would you like to, or some translations say, would you like to be made whole? But a lot of them use that phrase, would you like to get well? And the number 38 in this story is not insignificant either. If we look back in the Old Testament, when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, headed to the Promised Land, we think that they wandered in the desert for 40 years. They traveled for 40 years, but 2 years were spent getting to the Promised Land. They sent spies out. The spies came back and said, not now. And so then they wandered for 38 years before God came good on the promise and delivered them to the Promised Land. So when John writes that this man had been ill for 38 years, I think that is a significant note. So the big question, would you like to get well, should be an easy yes. Who doesn't want that? I would love to be made whole. I would love to be healed. I would love to get well. But if I look back, I don't always answer that with an affirmative yes. Sometimes it's a yes followed with a not right now. Like sometimes I play hard to get. Like, oh, would I like to get well? Are you talking to me, Lord? And maybe like hard to get is not like the best way of saying that. Maybe it's all more just this idea of, I don't know, I got a lot going on right now. Or I would love to, but it's not a great time for me. One of my favorite sitcoms is the show How I Met Your Mother. And it's like Seinfeld, Office, 1A, 1B for me, Friends, and then like How I Met Your Mother is kind of up there with those three. But then season 5, there's this episode called Hooked. And it's all about like past romantic relationships and how the only thing that those characters are committed to is not committing to anyone. And there's always some version of them either saying or hearing, oh, I would love to be together, just not right now. And I have to imagine that those characters, who are all just kind of bad people in various stages of life, are always keeping their relationships at arm's length, at arm's distance, of saying, yeah, but I don't know, not right now. Maybe later. And I kind of relate to this idea of safety with a backup plan. But is there ever fulfillment in a relationship that never gets closer than this? I have to think there's not. And sometimes I know that God is inviting me to get well, and I just go, it's not a good time for me right now. And part of that, maybe, is just not being willing to pay what it costs to accept an invitation. There are other times where I know that Jesus is inviting me to a better life, a better scenario. I know he's calling me to something more, and I want to say yes, but what will that cost me? I know that every time I say yes to one thing, I'm really saying no to this other thing. Every time I choose to be here, I no longer get to be there. Every time I do this, I no longer get to do that. And sometimes that price can feel a little steep. Because to feel connected to another person, you've got to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to trust. You got to be willing to put yourself out there and hope that it comes back. To experience peace and calm, and Jesus offers both of those things. You're going to need to process a lot of grief and trauma, because maybe there's a little bit of chaos in your history that's keeping you from moving forward. To get to a place of hopefulness, which is what Jesus offers each of us, you've got to prioritize taking care of yourself. To have confidence, you have to do the hard work of knowing your worth. And throughout the gospel, you can see that Jesus reminding you you're invaluable. If you want to be creative, you got to be courageous. But to be courageous, you have to face your fears. Everything we choose to do comes with a price. Money, time, friends, availability, the list goes on and on and on. And even when it comes to accepting an offer, like would you like to be well, even the price of that invitation can seem like it's too much. So here's the sad thing. If I do anything for long enough, I just become comfortable with it. Even if it's like a bad habit, a toxic habit, with repetition and consistency, I'm just cool with it because that's just the way life is now. I know I need to make some changes, but that means I'd have to make changes. And the cost of changing can feel overwhelming. When accepting the offer of would you like to get well, sometimes that means we'll have to let go of something. Sometimes that means we'll have to change something. Sometimes that means we're just going to have to be comfortable for a little while to let the Holy Spirit really fill our lives and change us from the inside out. But when Jesus calls you to pick up your mat and go, we have to walk. And maybe the big question comes down to wrestling with two smaller questions. Because at times I get so concerned with the thought of Jesus completely changing my life that I'm way more worried about what that decision does to me rather than what that decision could do for me. I think we all understand that when this paralyzed man was healed and mobile for the first time in 38 years, that was a really, really, really good thing. But man, that was a new thing. I try to put myself in his shoes. That's a new routine. That's a new community. That's a new way of living. Eating is different. Talking is different. Breathing is different. The world is different in both how he looks at it and how the world looks at him. Everything about this guy's life changed in an instant simply by accepting an invitation from Jesus. Now, I can say with certainty, I've never had anything like that big happen before in my life, but I've had an invitation from Jesus to walk into a new way, and just certain things had to happen. But we can so easily miss the point of the gospel by worrying more about what others think of us instead of listening to who Jesus says that we are. We can so easily miss the point of the gospel by valuing my time and my interests over following the leading of Jesus. We can so easily miss the point of the gospel when the fear of change dominates the hope of a new life. When we receive an invitation to be well, but only look at what it does to us, we never get to experience what Jesus can do for us. I'll tell you one last story about my kids, and then we'll do something different. My son is 3, and we have one challenge left in potty training. It's the overnight. He's done phenomenal every other place. We pee in more public restrooms than I am comfortable with. But the overnight is like the last hurdle. And so I was putting him to bed, and we begin, a conversation. He wants to wear the big boy underwear to bed. I want him to wear the overnight pull-ups. We're back and forth, and when he finally gets to this phase of like this comparison piece, he's just like, Daddy, do you wear your big boy underwear to bed? Yes, I do. Does Mommy wear her underwear to bed? Yes, she does. Does Sister wear her? Yes, she does. And had I not stopped him there, we would have named every living family member that he could get his tongue on. And I would have had to say, yeah, I'm pretty sure they wear underwear to bed. So I just kind of jump in. I was like, hey, buddy, look, here's the deal. We're all just a little bit bigger than you. That's all it is. We're just a little bit bigger right now, but later you're going to be big, and then you can wear all the big boy underwear to bed for all the naps that you want or all the overnights you want. Cool? He goes, I think I'll be bigger tomorrow. And I love that. And I've thought about that quote every day for a variety of reasons. But in the context of an invitation from Jesus, I also have to look at the way that Jesus responded to children. There's a story that appears in the 3 other Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where Jesus is there and the children run to him, but his disciples, his boys, think that Jesus is too busy to mess with these kids. And instead of agreeing with the adults, Jesus scolds them and says, let the children come to me. And he says something to the tune of, anyone who does not receive the kingdom of God like a child will never enter it. And I think that idea of I'll be bigger tomorrow helps me understand what it's like to follow Jesus. Because if we look back, we know that Jesus is the Son of God. And we know that God was the God of the Old Testament. And when his people were wandering in the desert for 38 years, he didn't leave them there. But he saw them and he followed them and he never left them. And actually he rescued them and delivered a promise to him. And I think that God in the form of Jesus is the same one that offers me an invitation to be well. If you look back at the story of Jesus, you can see time and time again where he healed the blind and the lame walked and he performed miracles and he brought healing. Not because he could, but because he wanted to. And I think the same Jesus that heals throughout his story and offers me an invitation, I think that's the same guy. I think that it's the same Jesus that time and time again conquered death and showed compassion and was grace and said, you are valuable and you mean it to me. And I think that's the same Jesus that looks down, looks me in the eyes, sticks out his hand and goes, would you like to get well? But I've got to believe in it. I've got to believe that I can be bigger tomorrow through a relationship with Jesus who offers to change my life today. So I'm thankful for that 3-year-old who argued with me over underwear before bedtime. We are a church of next steps. And we don't just say that to say that because it sounds cool, but we say that because we believe that everyone has a next step. Maybe you're at a place where that invitation of would you like to be healed is hitting home. Maybe you're in a place where would you like to be made whole? Would you like to get well? Maybe that means something to you. Well, this is a God that offers you that invitation today. The one that always says, hey, come. Experience what it's like to be loved, to be seen, to be known, to feel joy and peace and calm. And so today, if you want to take that next step, our altars are going to be open. The song's going to play. And if you want to come to take that next step and say, I see the invitation and I accept, now is the perfect day to do that. And if maybe taking a physical step is not your cup of tea, you're more than welcome to sit there, palms up, receiving the invitation before you. And maybe all you need is the strength to say, okay, I believe. And even if that's not too much, but still you are ready to be made well, maybe you can just close your eyes, breathe deeply, and go, okay. Okay. I'm going to pray. We're going to have a chance to respond. The band's going to play. We're going to have a great afternoon. Gracious God, we thank you for today, for your son, Jesus, who offers us an invitation to be made whole in you, to be made well, to be healed, an invitation to be seen, to be connected, to be known. And how sweet it is to be known and to be loved by you. God, we thank you for this day, for these moments, to simply be because of who you are. Amen.